Today I would like to talk to you about being surrounded by glory. The Lord has put in all of our hearts and spirits some dream, some vision that we hope comes to pass. But maybe if you're like me, it was too big and you thought there's no way. I don't have the resources, I don't have the talent, I don't have the capability to even have this come into being. So maybe you just never even spoke of it. You don't even tell anybody. Or if you do tell people, maybe they laugh at you, or maybe they tell you all the reasons why it couldn't come to be. Because this is something that, yes, absolutely, in the natural, it couldn't come to be. But this is something where the Lord, once you're surrounded by glory, once you're surrounded by His presence, His favor, His touch, His miracles, then it will come to pass. Because our spirits have infinity in them. And our spirits don't get limited by time, space, or matter. So when the Lord spoke that, you can have that come into being, because that's part of your destiny. Your spirit isn't limited by what you have seen thus far. And that's why it can keep echoing in you and telling you and beckoning to you that the Lord, the great I am, can bring this to come to pass. Even in our just little finite minds, we can't imagine this thing. Maybe you have some addictions that you've had and they've ruined your life. They've just destroyed you and you think there's no way I can overcome these addictions. Maybe you have some perversions that, for your whole life you've kind of been just, doing some nonsense and you want to be set free, but you haven't been able. You don't know how to get free from these things. Or maybe you have some dream of having, a family, children, something, but you just have a string of bad relationships. You just seem to not meet the right people, or you yourself, you have so much brokenness that you cause problems in the relationship and the people turn and walk out. So you've experienced closed doors, disappointments, hurts, betrayals, letdowns, things of this nature. And so you just think there's no way that this is humanly possible. I want to let you know that God is the great I am, and He would have never put that in your heart if He wasn't going to bring it to completion. God said that He is going to finish the work that He began in us, and that will come to be if you stand in faith. When Jesus was out doing His ministry, He was performing exorcisms, He was casting out demons, He was healing the sick, He was bringing dead people back to life. And that's exactly what He did for Jairus' daughter, who had some type of illness. And we're going to look at that story because Jesus was walking along doing many miracles, and Jairus came running to Him and said, you've got to break away from these people. You've got to come now, because my situation is dire. My daughter is dying. I need you right now, Jesus. And maybe you're like Jairus. You're in that right now, Jesus. I need you right now, because this situation, this closed door, this letdown, this betrayal, this addiction that you have, it's just consuming you. It has overtaken you, and you feel at the end of yourself. And so you're crying out to Jesus saying, come now, come now. But just like Jairus in this situation, Jesus said, yes, I see you, Jairus. I understand that you have an issue. But it was like He almost said, take a number in the deli line, because Jesus had somebody touch the hem of His garment, and He stopped the whole crowd and was like, hey, who did this? And Jairus is standing there with the time clock running. The sand is just dropping out, right? Like, I'm on a short supply here, Jesus. We don't have time for this nonsense. And even the apostles are saying, what are you talking about? There is such a crowd pressing in around you. How can you even ask who touched my clothing, right? So nobody understood what Jesus was doing. So then finally you get this whole story about this woman, and she touched the hem of His garment because she's got, her problems and all this and that. So you're left there standing saying, okay, God is too busy. He's out there running the universe. He's helping other people. He doesn't have time for me. He doesn't even know my name. He's too busy finding out about this other person to take care of her, okay? And then the worst thing possible could happen. The worst thing possible could happen. The inevitable came to be. Jairus' people came to him and said, you know what? The clock ran out. I'm sorry. Your daughter is dead. It's time to walk away from Jesus. It's time to walk away from God. He didn't help you in time. And that is exactly what Jairus wanted to do. He was going to walk away because his daughter was dead. And Jesus heard this conversation, and Jesus came and said, have faith. Have a little more faith. I am the great I am. And this is where you possibly could be. You might be in that valley of darkness where death has been proclaimed over you. The lights have gone out. You have no more hope. Maybe you got a report that said, you know, you're terminally ill. Maybe they called you into the office and said that we're laying you off or we're firing you. Whatever has happened, maybe that person walked out. The betrayals have happened. The doors have closed. It is the end. It is finished. You've done everything you can. Maybe you even helped contribute to this problem, but it's at the end. And this is where Jesus says, wait a minute, wait a minute. Even in your power, yes, it can't happen, but I am the great I am. This is where your faith needs to rise up, and you need to trust in God, because He is the miracle maker. He is the great I am. He is the one that can part the Red Sea so that you can cross on dry land. He is the one that can bring water out of a rock in the middle of your wilderness. He is the one that can put manna on the ground out of dew, and He is the one that can bring in the quail to satisfy your hunger, okay? And so this is where He says to you, yes, in your natural, you have come to the end of yourself. You've come to the end of yourself, but this is where your faith is going to be the bridge that takes you into my miracles, into divine power, into my favor. This is where you need to be surrounded by glory, because this glory will carry you. And just like that is exactly what Jairus did. Jairus stood on his faith. But in order to make that happen, Jesus knew that this was a tall order. Jairus got the memo that his daughter was dead, okay? This is a very disappointing, this is a very trying time, the worst time of your life, the deepest valley you've ever been in, the darkest moment of your life. This is where you need to have the strongest faith. And here's what Jesus did. Jesus separated the entire crowd, because all of the naysayers, everybody was saying, it's over, nothing can be done here. And so the only people that Jesus took was His closest disciples, the biggest believers. And maybe, just maybe, those doors that closed, maybe that is God exiting all of these people out of your life. Maybe in that position at that job that you had, maybe you were developing a limited mindset. Maybe in that relationship, that person who was oppressing you, they were pushing you down, they were keeping it status quo. They didn't have the faith to lift you to this higher level, to get you to that place where the divine miracles can happen. So maybe it was God, not the devil. Maybe it wasn't your mistake. Maybe it wasn't the devil, but maybe it was God Himself who said, you know what, these people need to be parted. Just like that Red Sea, maybe God parted these people and these positions out of your life, and He's telling you, walk by faith. Walk on that dry land across this sea, because I'm telling you, your promise is on the other side. That is you being surrounded by glory. That is you being surrounded by your faith, the presence of God, because that's what it's going to take for the miracle to happen in your life, for you to reach that divine destiny, that divine calling that has been in your spirit, beckoning and summoning you. So it looks like this is the end and you can't believe it. All that your mind can see is the hurt, the disappointment, the betrayals, the letdowns, all of the limiting things. But God is saying, get that mustard seed of faith, and we're going to stand on that. We're going to plant that in this valley of darkness, and my light is going to shine forth, and that will bloom into the greatest miracle you've ever seen in your life. So stand steadfast, stand on faith, surround yourself with glory, surround yourself with fellow believers. Take out the non-believers, the naysayers, just like Jesus did, and walk home just like Jairus and Jesus did with the strongest apostles. Walk back home. Walk towards your miracle. Walk towards your destiny with only Jesus and those that he appoints to be with you at this harrowing time. And when you get there, that is when Jesus is going to summon and beckon that thing and say, come forth, come into being. That is when your miracle will be birthed. Jesus is closing doors not to destroy you. Jesus is closing doors on the non-believers, the nonsense people. He's casting them out so that you will have the strength to walk this little bit by faith, this little bit between the end of yourself and the very next miracle that happens in your life. God wants to surround you with glory in that place so that it can come to pass. Trust in him, believe in him, read your Bible, listen to gospel music, okay? Shout out a praise of thanksgiving right now in the valley and say, God, I thank you. I thank you that the plans and the destiny that you have for me, that you will bring them into completion. And I thank you that the promises and the plan that you have are to give me a hope and a future, and they are not plans to destroy me. God, I thank you that in this darkness, in this valley, right here, right now, God, that you're not going to leave me. You're not going to abandon me. You're not going to forsake me. That this, God, is only a valley that's going to get me to my next mountaintop so that I can proclaim your glory a lot stronger and a lot more powerfully, and I'll have a greater influence and a greater reach out in this world to let people know that you are the great I am. You are the miracle wonder working God. I hope this is helpful. Stand strong in your faith. Let God close doors. Let God close doors. Understand that this isn't the end of you, but this is the end of your power. This is the beginning of his divine wonder-working miracles that will begin to manifest in your life if you just cross that bridge of faith, just walking on the grace and the favor that God has for you. God bless you, and I hope to see you again. Bye-bye.